Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Teach MA Dude back with another exciting video about something that I think is going to be especially important as we head into the interview season of the school year. And that is interview questions that you can ask your prospective employer. So, as you might know, at the end of any interview, you're going to often be given an opportunity to ask questions to your employer to give you a better sense of, is this the best job for me? If you haven't seen it yet, please check out the video I made about how to vet a potential job because I think you're going to find that very interesting. But in this video, I'm going to talk about questions that you can ask them. Before I begin, please make sure to like and subscribe so you can get the newest content. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you know when my newest videos are coming out. I'd also am going to preface this by saying that when you go into an interview, you should consider these questions, but you should also try to do some preliminary research to see if you can find the answers online, because it isn't good to ask a question if you could easily find the answer before going into the interview. I would also say, please try to limit your interview questions to maybe 3 or 4. Do not try to ask all of these questions because I think it's going to show kind of that you don't really respect their time. My first question, and this is like a popular one, given the hot topic that it gets at. What does diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging mean to you? And I would get them to really get at what does those terms mean and how do you embody them in your school? Okay, so what you're looking for is you're looking to see what they know about it, which should be pretty straightforward in 2023. How is it kind of infused into the school and like the school culture and how they run the school and the policies and practices in place, and how do they continuously support it throughout the year? Those are really important questions. My second question that I might ask is, how do you see me fitting into this school? So what you're looking for here is they might tell you something on a more superficial level, like what classes they might have you teach and how your course assignments. But you also might want to look to think about how do they see you fitting into the overall culture of the school. And that doesn't necessarily have to be talking about your physical characteristics, but how do they plan to take your skills that you bring to the table and incorporate those into their mission to educate the students. Question number 3, what technology is provided to teachers to help them enhance learning? You're really going to want to know what kind of technology are you going to be given as a faculty member? What kind of technology will be provided in the classrooms? And this might be a good time to think about listening out for, are you going to be expected to be floating from classroom to classroom as a teacher? Or will you have your own room? I probably wouldn't explicitly ask this question, but it kind of could be evidenced by their answer to the one I'm suggesting. But you're also going to want to think about seeing if you can elicit what kind of technology is provided to the students. Is this a one-to-one district? Does every student get their own technology? And if so, what kind of technology is it? What kind of systems do they have in terms of content distribution? Is this a Google school? Do they use Google Classroom? Do they use, Microsoft, et cetera? What kind of student information system do they use? This is kind of stuff that will tend to come out with this question. What is your school's policy on homework and assessments? So you're probably looking for things like, how much homework is expected or kind of the max it's allowed to be given every night. What's their philosophy on how homework really makes its way into the learning experience, and how will they support you if homework is something you want to give to support the learning in your classroom? All right. And kind of what is their feeling about assessments? Are there days that you shouldn't give assessments? Do they maybe hold those back on potentially religious holidays? How often do they expect you to be assessing? How do they expect you to incorporate assessments into your practice? So again, this is a good opportunity to push back a question they may have asked you back to them, because many times you're going to hear schools will ask you, how do you assess students? etc. Well, what do you expect teachers to be doing? What is your philosophy on that? I think is a good question to ask. My next question, where has your school been the most successful? And what do you see as some of the current challenges and opportunities? I think this is a good question to ask to see if, especially because you're going to be interviewing with someone in leadership, and this is definitely a good question for someone in a leadership role. What are they able to genuinely reflect on where their school and where they in turn have been successful, and where do they intend to continue to do work? And you're going to really want to think about the depth of reflection, and you're going to want to think about, what are those challenges, and is that something you feel comfortable being in? I think many administrators are not going to outright talk about the big challenges that they recognize. I think the ones I've interviewed with have been very reflective, but it's kind of like those big challenges that you might not see until you show up. Those might not be as obvious in the interview response. So the next question I would ask, what is your philosophy on engaging parents and families? And what does the school do to connect with them and the community as a whole? What is the school doing to kind of establish a culture of collaboration between the school and the community and the families? If the school doesn't really have a strong culture of collaboration with families and a strong expectation that there's going to be working together with home and the school, that might make it difficult if you want to collaborate with families in your position, because there might be a culture of not strong connections there and not the most collaborative, which is going to make it hard for you. And it's going to make parents maybe skeptical of your outreach attempts. So you're really going to want to think about that. And you're going to really want to maybe look for some, really specific systems that are used, maybe some specific community partnerships that the school has, so that you can ensure that there's really strong connections with the school and home. Okay. My next question, how do you ensure all students are ready for success after high school? I'm a high school teacher, so this is a very high school specific question. What are they doing to make sure, and this goes beyond curriculum, you want to look beyond curriculum. What kind of special, classes do they offer? What kind of, unique supports do they do to make sure that every student is ready for life after high school? And you probably want to think about, depending on your individual philosophy, how that might extend to individuals who might not be pursuing college. What supports do you put in place to support students who struggle to access school? So what we're thinking about is those students who may struggle to come to school, who might come frequently tardy, and especially in the wake of the new Massachusetts discipline law, we might start to see a lot more student misbehavior, because it's going to be harder to address that behavior in ways that, push the kids out of school. So what is the administration kind of doing to partner with teachers to help those students who are struggling? Because we're not worried necessarily about the kids who really slug it out of the ballpark. We are more concerned about the students who are going to be struggling. And so how do we address that together, right? It takes a village, but how is leadership being part of that village? My next question, what supports do you put in place to help new faculty? Do you use any specific materials or resources? Most likely they are going to talk about their induction and mentorship program. I personally would not read too much into that, because every school is required to have an induction and mentorship program. That is a matter of regulation. So I would not be looking too hard into that, but I would be looking in terms of, is there a curriculum they use as part of that? How is it structured? Can they speak to what do they do in terms of observations? Is there any specific kind of slant or any specific type of direction that it takes? How many years do you have to do it? Is it just a 1-year thing, or is it multiple years? All right. And my last question, what curriculum do you use and what supports do you provide to help ensure it's effectively implemented? This you're going to want to ask in the initial round, especially when you're working with, maybe interviewing with people who are more in the department that you're going to be working with. And you really want to when you get that information, you're going to want to make sure take that in so that you can maybe do research on that curriculum if you're not aware with it. If you are aware of it, you might at that time want to have some kind of response where you make sure they know that it's something you're comfortable with and something you've done before, because it can be a good selling point if they're like, all right, this person's used this curriculum, this person can really speak to the advantages of this curriculum. We're not going to have to like get someone all acclimated all over again to a brand new curriculum. So that can work out well for you. In terms of the supports, you're going to want to think about that, because if it's a brand new curriculum to you and they're not going to really give you much support in implementing it, they're going to kind of throw the textbook at you and say it's all you. So you might hear things like, teachers are supposed to make their own lessons, especially if you're not hearing about things like collaboration. And a constant theme of collaboration is what you're going to want to be looking for throughout your questions, because it's certainly something that you're going to be asked about. It's very typical to be asked about how you collaborate with others. So you're going to want to see what systems that they put in place to ensure there's collaboration amongst staff that will allow you to engage in that collaboration, so that people are not being, put into their individual silos, so to speak. So those are the questions that I would recommend you ask. Again, as you go in, please keep in mind that you should try to stick to maybe 3, maybe 4 questions at most. You should not necessarily ask these questions in the order I've presented them. You really want to meaningfully try to sequence those questions. So kind of have them in the back of your mind, right? Have them ready to go. And then as you proceed with the interview, what I do in my head is that as I'm answering questions, I'm thinking of the questions I might want to ask. Never, ever be in a position where you do not have questions. Even 1 or 2 questions is really, really valuable. But again, make them meaningful, make them like substantive, and try not to use questions where you could easily just find the answers online. But hey, of course, there's going to be a lot of stuff I'm missing. Please feel free to join the conversation. Leave a comment below, like and subscribe so you can get my newest videos, and don't stop trying your best to be the best teacher you can be. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one.